This lesson, I forget about the microphone. This lesson is my least favorite lesson because it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. But when Wayne and I were putting thoughts together and creating this, we decided the church doesn't talk about sex. In fact, it makes Wayne nervous that I'm using the word sex in a church building. And I'm like, honey, surely we're past that by now. Surely we are. But I feel like if the church would take back how beautiful God designed that to be, if we could own that again, we could change the world if we could fix that. And I feel so very strongly about this. And so as we talk about this, as I share about this, I always like to give you a Bible base. We know that God created Adam and he moved the animals by. And like I said earlier, if it was just a companion, it could have been another guy or a dog. But it was a female. He needed a female. And I do believe he needed a female for companionship, but it was also to multiply and have children to cover the earth. But sex isn't just to have children. Sorry, Grandma. But sex isn't just to have children. I believe it is a huge blessing to our marriage when we look at it that way. And I believe in my own life, my parents were amazing parents, but we didn't talk about sex. And I feel like if we would have done more of that with me growing up, it would have changed some of my behavior. Not all of it. You know who I am by now, surely. So it wouldn't have changed all of it. But it would have changed some of my thinking where sexual things were concerned. So I'll put that plug in right now. If you're not talking about these kind of things with your children, I don't care how young they are, you need to start planting that seed so that they know they can come to you and talk to you about these things. And it's not uncomfortable for them. It's not weird for them. If they ask about, oh, is that a baby in your tummy? Start giving them little nuggets that they can start coming back to you and they feel comfortable talking. But that's parenting, so we'll move on. But I wanted you to understand this is so important. This is so important that we talk about it in the church. So I want to take you to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Paul's writing this letter to the church at Corinth, and if you understand, the church at Corinth was in a mess. They wanted to be God's people. They wanted to follow and be Christ-like, but they were struggling. A lot of this church, a lot of this congregation would have come out of idolatry. They weren't highly Jewish. In fact, it was more of those that had been converted out of other religions or no religion whatsoever. So they're coming into the church bringing all their baggage. And some of their baggage would have been, if they had been in idol worship, well, sex was a large part of idolatry. There were temple prostitutes and all of that, male and female. So they're coming in now going, all right, what about sex? What do we do with that now? How does that work? What is all that? And so Paul, they've obviously asked some questions, and Paul is going to address that here in chapter 7. He starts talking about it. Starting in verse 1, he says, now concerning the things about which you wrote, it's good for a man not to touch a woman, but because of immoralities, each man is to have his own wife, and each woman is to have her own husband. The husband must fulfill his duty to his wife, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does, and likewise also the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Stop depriving one another except by agreement for a time, so for spiritual reasons, for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer and come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. But this I say by way of concession, not of command, yet I wish that all men were even as I myself am. Paul was single. Paul never married. However, each man has his own gift from God, one in this manner and another in that. But I say to the unmarried and to the widows that it's good for them if they remain even as I. But if they do not have self-control, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. And that burn is burn with passion. So as we look at this, Paul is saying, yeah, if you can't control those sexual desires that you're having, you need to get married. You need to get married, have a husband or have a wife to fulfill those desires with. So he doesn't say it's anything sinful. In fact, it's immorality if it's outside of marriage. So he says get married and fulfill yourself that way. Do that for yourself. So it's nothing sinful. In fact, God wouldn't intentionally design us with that desire if it were a sinful desire. It's only sinful when we take it out of God's design and take it out of marriage. So understanding that, as I was building this lesson, I got some suggestions from my husband. I did not go interview, talk to, hear from any other man. I didn't want to hear from them. This is an area that is a personal area. You need to be careful even what females you are talking to. You need to be careful who you talk to about your intimate life. That is between you and your husband. You need to be really careful because you can plant seeds of discontent. If you're sharing how wonderful yours is and trying to give suggestions to a friend, you can plant seeds in her head of, my life is horrible, or, man, her husband does that for her, kind of thinking. Be careful of doing that. You stir up thoughts and feelings that don't need to be stirred up. That's why it's so important you talk about it within your own marriage. But I took some of the things Wayne wanted to share, and I kind of built that. So what I want to do is I want to take you back to the wedding day, take you back to the beginning there, where you have the groom. Here's the groom in his shiny rented dress shoes, and he's waiting at the front of the auditorium or garden or wherever he's waiting, and he's anticipating this bride. And for the bride, it's been all about the hair and the dress and the colors and the flowers and all of those things. And she is waiting for that moment that he sees her for the first time, whenever it might be. And so here she comes, and he's blown away. He's just blown away. Watch a groom. Now, they've changed things up, and they see each other for the first time, some other picture now. But if you are at a traditional wedding where the groom sees her for the first time when she comes down the aisle, watch his face first. You can always turn and look at the bride. Watch that groom. Because even big, tough, burly guys just turn to little pools of jello when they see that beautiful bride coming in. And they're blown away by her beauty, and they're thinking, this is her. She is mine. She will be mine. I love her so much. She is so beautiful, and I can't wait to see her panties. Now, I say it that way because that's what one of my sons said to me. That's what one of my sons shared with me. And I'm like, okay, all right. We were in the car together. It was just me and him a few weeks after their wedding. And I said, your wife, she was so beautiful. I loved her dress. I loved this, that, and the other. And he goes, yeah, she was beautiful. But Mom, you should have seen her panties. And I'm like, ugh, ugh, ugh. Don't even. But I kind of stopped afterwards and kind of thought about it, and I was talking with Wayne, and I'm like, I can't believe he said that. But that's how we raised him. I wanted my son to be excited about his bride. I wanted that to be a wonderful gift for him, a gift that he received. And so when he said that, I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. That's how he was focused. That was important to him in that moment as well, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So understanding, as we talk about this sexual thing, the point I want to drive home through all of it is, they always say the man is the sexual aggressive one in a marriage. Well, I already told you I'm the man in my marriage, so that's my role. That's who I am. And my husband was the one that always had a headache or was too tired. And I'm like, in those books that I would read, it was one of the reasons when I'd read the books, I thought, maybe I'm not the Christian woman I'm supposed to be. Maybe something's off with me. But we figured it out. It worked for us. But as I talk about this, I'm not talking down about either side, however you're wired. The most important part of your sexual relationship is understanding that you're wired differently, and that's okay. That's okay. So often, well, especially when we first got married, I'm like, he should be wired like me. And I think we'd have 15 children if he had been wired like me. But we're wired differently. And so it's really easy to think, especially if your husband is the sexually aggressive one, to think, oh, he has to have sex all the time, and think there's something wrong with that. Be careful, that's not fair. That's not fair. Understanding that you're different, this is why it's so important in this area of your marriage that you communicate. And that's my first point, is you need to make sure that you are expressing yourself, that you are communicating where this is concerned. All phases of marriage where this is concerned, you need to keep talking about it and let your husband know where you're at and let them know what pleases you. It's so easy when you first get married to assume that he's going to know how. And I don't care if you're in your 50s and on your second marriage for some reason, and you assume he's going to know what pleases you. That's not fair. You're not his first wife. You're not that person. So it's so important that you communicate this. Or you bring a young man in, you bring my husband in at the age of 21 into a marriage and just assume he's going to know how to fulfill that role for me. And for me then to step back and be upset with him because he doesn't, and we've never talked about it. And it happens all the time because talking about it is uncomfortable. Been married 41 years, and it's still weird, and we still have to talk about it because our bodies and our life are changing. So it's a point where your husband does need you to communicate with him. Then, as Wayne and I first got married, I learned quickly that I was the sexually aggressive one, very quickly. That first week of marriage, we're living in Wayne's parents' house, and I don't know, we're in 3 days in, and I kind of make a move on him, and because I'm thinking, I'm married to him, we're sleeping in the same bed, we should be naked having sex. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. I've grown up. I'm telling you that now, but I've grown up. But so when he kind of turned and said, nah, not tonight, or whatever it was, I turned over onto my side and did the silent cry. And I feel his hand on my back. And he goes, "Are you crying?" And I went, "Yes." And he goes, "Why are you crying?" And I went, "We've been married 3 days and already you don't find me desirable. I'm just a kid." And he goes, "Are you kidding me? We're in my parents' house. This is weird." And I went, "Oh, yes, I see." But as we got down the road a little bit, after we'd been married a little while, I quickly realized that's who I was and that's who he was. And it became an attitude issue for me. It really did. It became a problem for me. He was too tired, and he had a headache, or whatever might be going on over there. And I started to be ugly about it. I started doing the, "Oh, fine, I'll be over here if you ever want sex again," kind of thing, and did nothing about it. Just waited every time for him to make a move on me. And I finally had him ask me one time, he said, "Tammy, I need to talk to you." And I heard those words in my life a lot. "Can I talk to you about something?" I'm like, "Oh, what have I done now?" But he said, "Tammy, I need to know, do you still find me desirable?" And in my mind, I'm going, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Well, Wayne, you know who I am. Of course I find you desirable." And he goes, "I can't tell you the last time that you came on to me, that you made a move on me." And I went, "Well, Mr. Too Tired, Mr. Headache all the time." And he went, "Oh." Because I didn't realize I'd done that. And I said, "Yeah, you really hurt my feelings." And I had to admit to having a bad attitude about it. But he said, I felt like you didn't find me desirable anymore. So if you're not the initiator, you might plant that little seed in your head and remember he needs you to do that for him sometimes. And if you're like me and had a bad attitude about the whole thing, that's not good either. You're going to have to talk about it and make sure you're communicating with him and letting him know it is a desire that you have, it is a need you have, but you're going to have to find out how to compromise in it. But talk about it. Don't let it fester. Make sure you're doing that and communicating. Then we went down the path a little bit. I mentioned I've always been little. My shape is changing now. I went through menopause, and now I'm starting to gain weight. By the time I die, I will weigh 400 pounds at the rate I'm going now. And whatever. But my body's changing. And I have found myself uncomfortable with my body. It's different. It's different than the little skinny girl that Wayne married. In fact, when we first married, I was uncomfortable too, because having children, don't hate me, but having children changed my metabolism, and I could not gain weight. I weighed 112 when we got married. So I know, what a curse. But I had no curves. I mean, none. None. In fact, if they had a bra that had enclaves, I would have had that. But I had no curves. So my wedding night, I was a little nervous because my shape came from a padded bra. And I knew that when I took that padded bra off, it'd be like, surprise! But he quickly reassured me that we were good. But now my shape is changing again, and my self-confidence has been bashed. And I found myself in a position where I have Wayne talking to me, and he goes, I need to talk to you again. I need to ask you about something. And I went, okay, what is it? And he goes, well, I don't remember the last time I saw you naked. And I went, oh, yes! I said, you don't want to see what's going on in these clothes. And he stayed dead serious, which you have now seen is not Wayne. He stayed dead serious. He goes, no. I can't remember the last time I've seen you naked. And this is important. And I started thinking about my schedule and what I do. I'd go take my bath, and when I took my bath, I would come out of the bathroom, and Wayne would usually be headed into the bathroom. By the time he came out to go to bed, I was in pajamas or whatever in bed. He never saw me naked then. And then getting up in the morning, I'd get up, go in the bathroom. When I came out, he'd go in. By the time he came out of the bathroom, I was dressed and going for the day. And I thought, he's never seen me naked. And he goes, Tami, this is important to me. He said, you need to know that Satan has given me this little device in my hand that at any time, if I want to see someone naked, I can see anyone. And he goes, but I don't want that. I want to see you. You are my wife. You are the one that I want to see naked. And I think you're beautiful. And he said, I need you to know that. And I'm like, oh, but I'm changing. He goes, Tami, you think I love you any less? I'm like, well, no. And he said, quit listening to the world. He goes, I think you're beautiful. And I need to see you naked. And so a weird phase of life started, where I'd be headed up to bed, and I could hear Wayne coming, and I'm like, okay, here comes Wayne. I'm in flannel pajamas, and here he's coming. He needs to see me naked. And I'm like, okay, here he's coming. He's coming in the room. Here he comes. Boom. How's that? And he's like, good to go. And I'm like, I had to do it on purpose. It was so weird. But he would reassure me every time. But understanding that your husband wants to see you naked. He needs to see that. He thinks you're beautiful. And then the next one is flirt with your husband. Don't ever stop flirting with your husband, especially if you have a husband that is striving to be a godly man. He's really working to be like Jesus. He's going to turn heads. He's going to catch the attention of, that's how God designed it. We work to be like Jesus, and people watch us and go, wow, how's that? Why is he so different? And he will turn the heads of women. I had a couple that we were doing things with, church things, and at these church things, I would watch this woman. She finally crossed the line from being very friendly with my husband to flirting with him. And I told Wayne, I said, okay, after people had left our house one night, we had a huge group in, after they left our house, I said, I need you to know, she's flirting with you. And he went, she's not flirting with me, she's just being nice. I'm like, oh, brother, no, she's not. She's flirting with you. And he goes, well, what do you want me to do about it? And I went, nothing. I will take care of this. So I took her to lunch, and I said, I need to talk to you. I don't want this to destroy our friendship. I love her to death. We're still very close friends. But I said, I have watched you, and I've watched you cross from being his friend to flirting with him, and that's not okay with me. She started crying, and she told me what I already knew, but she reminded me her husband was a brand new Christian, wasn't raised in a Christian home, had no religious background whatsoever, and so he's this baby Christian, and she said, I'm so sorry, I just see in Wayne what I want my husband to be. And I hugged on her, and I prayed with her, and I told her, and don't flirt with my husband anymore. But you need to be flirting with him. Flirt with him like you did before. Let him know. Wayne will go get his hair cut, even though he knows I'm sharing this right now with you about him and his haircuts. He'll go get his hair cut, and when he gets his hair cut, wherever I'm at, he comes and finds me, and he stands there like this. I'm like, oh, he's such a girl. Like, until I go, oh, you got your hair cut. It looks so nice. I'm like, he's had his hair cut the same way since he was 3. So, whatever, But he needs to hear that. In fact, I said something to him, a couple of things to him yesterday. We were eating lunch, and he had a food on his lip, and I said, you don't want to leave that there. And he went, fine, I'm not an old person. I'm like, well, I didn't want you walking around with a big chunk of food on your lip. And then later, his shoe was untied, and I went, be careful, your shoe's untied. And he goes, do you know how many negative things you've pointed out about me today? And I'm like, your shoe's untied? But it hit me again. They need to hear from us. They need to hear positive things from us. They need to be lifted up. As much as we do, they do. They need to know you find them handsome. And especially as they go through phases of life, they need to keep hearing it over and over that you find them handsome. Flirt with them. Let him know. I let Wayne know your hair looks so cute. Or maybe your husband, you look so good in those clean jeans. I love that. Whatever it might be, let him know. Flirt with him. Don't ever quit flirting with them. They need that. And I understand then being too tired. Here we are, we have 5 kids. I'm doing daycare in my home, and I can remember one time Wayne come walking in the door on a Friday night. Our marriage is actually 2 chunks. The first chunk was he was in heating and air conditioning. He'd go to work every day, and the second chunk has been ministry. So this is heating and air conditioning years. The kids are little. Well, he came in, and I'm standing there, and he looks at me and he goes, hey, it's Friday. And I'm like, why? He goes, it's the weekend. And he's got that little twinkle going on. And I'm like, huh? And then it hit me. I'm looking down at myself, and I've got baby food down my leg, and I've got spit up on my shoulder and in my hair. And I'm thinking, did I even bathe today? I don't know. And I'm like, now you're in the mood? And now you want? I am so tired. And so it was a real issue for us. Then we kind of went down the road a little bit, and we found that we were picking at each other. We hit a place in our marriage where, and we argued a lot, but this was abnormal. And we were picking at each other. We sat down and went, what is going on? I like you. Do you like me? Yeah. So we realized we had shoved sex out of our marriage completely. Our kids were busy. We were busy in the church. We were doing all these things. And I said, when was the last time we had sex? I don't know. Me either. And we decided that wasn't good for us. That wasn't healthy for our marriage. And we did something kind of sad, something a little pathetic probably to you. We put it on the calendar. We made Fridays sex nights. We just did. You can go back and look at all those little paper calendars that I had through the years, and there would be red hearts around Friday nights. Yeah, I know. Well, special day. But we did that because we weren't intentionally taking time for each other. And it actually helped our marriage. It really did. For me, I was doing daycare so I could have the kids. I even told the parents, I didn't tell them why, but I said, it's the weekend, you need to have your kids picked up by 6, or it was a hefty financial penalty, get them out of here by 6. You got to have that done. And Wayne, I could send him messages or notes in his lunch, or call him during the day and kind of give him a little, hey, sexy kind of thing, and just kind of set the tone for it. It made a huge, huge difference for us at that point in our marriage. It made it healthy again, because we were young. It was ridiculous, but we were busy. We let life get in the way of that part of our relationship, so we intentionally put it back in. In fact, I can send him a text on like a Tuesday and go, it's Friday, question mark, question mark, question mark. And he can go, maybe tomorrow. I'm like, good, I know where I stand, okay? But it's that understanding and making sure you're taking care of that. And then this is the point Wayne says, if I don't get anything else across, make sure I get this point across. Your husband thinks you're beautiful. He really does think you're beautiful. I have hit a point, I mentioned my body is changing. I was doing things that I was sharing with Wayne. It'd be like, Wayne, look at my thigh right here. Look at this. It's like somebody's poured gravel under my skin. Come feel this. Come feel this. This is so gross. And he'd go, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. Or I'd go, look at this. I think this is what they call a muffin top. I think mine's more of a butt cake, kind of thing. And he's stop. And I go, look, remember when my muscle used to come up this way? And now it's down here? And he finally went, wait, stop it. He said, Tami, if you keep talking about yourself in such a disgusting way, I might start finding you disgusting. And I'm like, ooh, didn't mean to be doing that. But as women, that's what we do. We do it with each other. If I would compliment you, if I'd tell Keely how pretty she looked in her dress, usually the response is, oh, this old thing? Or, are you sure? Does it make my butt look big? Kind of thing. That's what we do. We don't take compliments. We put ourselves down. We have let the world tell us what beautiful is, and the world is wrong. The world is wrong. We are so different in this room right here on purpose. On purpose. Our beauty isn't this thing. Our beauty is on the inside. That is where our beauty comes from. That's what this is all about. Our husbands love this. Now, I do believe if you need to do something for your health, if you can, some of us reach a point where I don't care how much you walk, run, do whatever, it's not going to make any difference. But if you need to do what you can for your health, I suggest you do that. You want to be healthy because you want to serve. You want to be doing that to serve. But if your husband's the one going, man, you've put on a lot of weight, Wayne's addressing that down there right now. This is not our beauty. Our beauty is here. Our beauty is on the inside, bubbling up and out. And that's why we had that first lesson. We're going to work on being Jesus. But understanding this isn't our beauty. And it's been a struggle for me too. Over the last few years, I've let my hair go gray, and it was dark. It was dark. And I made so many comments about, hi, Mom, in the mirror. Wayne goes, I don't want to see your mother every morning. Would you quit saying that? And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Okay, I will. But we do that. So understand that you are beautiful. Embrace your beauty. Don't listen to the world. Your husband thinks you're beautiful. So Wayne told me about this time. He said, I think what you need to do is tell yourself, think sexy thoughts. I think you're sexy. And I know sexy is a worldly word, but we're talking Christian marriages. So he said, I think you're sexy. Tell yourself that over and over again, that you're sexy. I think you're sexy. Well, shared this, one of the first seminars we did in the Denver area. I had a friend of mine come up a few days later, and I'd run into her, and she goes, and she's laughing so hard she can't breathe. And she's one of my very voluptuous friends. And she goes, I got a story to share with you about your think sexy. And I went, do I want to know? And she goes, oh yeah. And I mean it, I could hardly understand her. She was laughing so hard. But she said she got home one night and went up to get ready for bed, and laying on her bed was a nightgown, a negligee. And she said, uh-oh, And she didn't put it there, so she knew her husband had put it there for her. It was a new one. And she said, I picked it up, and it's silver, and you could see through it. It was opulent. And she held it up like this. And I held it up. And she's very voluptuous. So she's holding it like she was. So I held it up, and I thought, she goes, I can't get in that thing. If I get in that thing, I'm going to look like a sausage. That's all she could think. But she goes, okay, wait. Oh, wait. He bought it for me. My husband bought it for me. She goes, Tami said, think sexy thoughts. So she said, she took it in the bathroom. She cleans herself up. She goes, I struggle into that thing. I put it on. She goes, and I stood there and looked in the mirror and thought, okay. She goes, and I did a version of that thing from The Help. Where he thinks I'm beautiful, he thinks I'm sexy, he thinks I'm hot. And she goes, so I stood there and did that a few minutes, and she goes, before very long, I kicked that bathroom door open. He thinks I'm sexy. It worked for me. She said, I went, good, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. But understanding your husband thinks you're beautiful, think some sexy thoughts if you need to. And then be careful in your marriage, and this is so easy because of life and children and everything else. Be careful of getting in a rut attitude and just kind of floating through like Wayne and I did. It really hurt our marriage. But I was listening to people, this was in the heating and air conditioning days of our lives. We had 5 kids, 4 boys and a girl. And I was hearing all the young couples around me going, we're going to the mountains for the weekend. They're going to keep the kids. We're going here for the weekend. And I look at my 5 kids and went, wow, okay, that's not happening. The last babysitter we had, they locked in a closet, so that's not happening. So I'm like, nobody's keeping these kids overnight. So I thought, what can I do? What could I do to spark some interest here? So we were in the camping years, and we had a new tent, and I took our tent into the backyard, and I set it up, and I tried to think like Wayne, because he's the romantic one, he's the girl. And so I put little candles, the little lanterns everywhere, hung them in the trees, and I fixed a bed and did the rose petal thing. I just tried to think girly. And I did all of that. Well, Wayne came home from work that Friday night, and you could come in our house and you could see all the way out through this big window into the backyard. And he comes in, he goes, what's going on? Kids going to have a sleepover? What's going on in the backyard? And I went, nope, you and me, we're having a getaway. And he went, oh. He goes, what are we going to do with the kids? I went, we're going to lock them in the house. That's what we're going to do with the kids. I said, if it gets too desperate, we'll hear them banging on the door and we'll go check on them. But we're going to lock them in the house. So trying to think outside of the box. And I know it can be tricky. I really do. One other time, ministry years, I tried to think outside the box a little bit. And Wayne was gone to a teen retreat. And I thought, I'd come back from a ladies' day or a ladies' retreat, and Wayne would have me candles and flowers and the tub filled with all these wonderful things going on. He just was awesome. So I thought, well, he's going to come home. I should do something special for him. I'm going to do something for him. He's at this teen retreat. So I saw a commercial for a hot rock massage, and I thought, I could do that. So I thought, I'm not paying for a hot rock massage. So I went over to the park, and I found some smooth river rock about this size, and I brought them home, and I got about 8 of them, I guess, and I washed them up, and I thought, okay, now then, how do you heat these suckers? And I thought, I'll just use a microwave. So I put them in the microwave. I know. Now, I did learn they could explode. Mine did not explode, so it worked okay for me. So I heated them. I thought, okay, that'll work great. So I did the candles and blah, all the other stuff, and sent the kids to a movie or somebody else's house because they were older by this point, and sent them away. So Wayne comes home, and the lights are all down, and there's candles everywhere, and he's, what's going on? And I went, I've got a surprise for you. And he goes, oh, really? What is it? And I said, I'm going to give you a massage. And he was, wow. He was so excited. I said, you go get ready. I'll get my stuff, and I'll be right there. Well, I go to heat the rocks. Well, while the rocks are heating, I think, wait, a massage? They use massage oil. I don't have any of that. So I'm like, I have some vegetable oil or I have some suntan oil. I said, I'll use the suntan oil because it smells fruity or whatever it was. I'm like, that'll be a good thing. So I get my suntan oil and my bag of rocks and I head down there and he's laying on his tummy. So I spread that suntan oil on his back and he goes, oh, that smells good. And I went, I know. Kind of thing. And so then I reach for the first rock. Whew, those things were so hot. I pick that thing up and I go, ah! And I drop it into his back and he's going, ah! And I can't get it off because I'm slimy and he's slimy. And he goes, that's enough of a massage, now I'm really hurt. So if you're going to try to think outside the box, think it all the way through. Think it all the way through. But the importance of this, is it the most important thing in our marriages? Nah, it's not. But it is a big part of them. It is a big part of our marriages. And so making sure it's a healthy thing while you can, because there may be a time coming, pregnancy. Sometimes during pregnancy, women can't have sex. There may be health issues, surgery, whatever it might be. You may reach a time actually in your marriage where it is no longer a part of your life. So you need to make sure while you can, it is a healthy part. You work at that and communicate that and share in that blessing. Share in that blessing. Now, I also believe if things come through your marriage that are difficult, it can actually pull you together. Sometimes when you go through hard things with your children, that intimate relationship makes you remember there is real love. There's real love right here. There's a closeness that we can feel that nobody else can feel with us because of that relationship. Or if you go through difficult things with each other. If your husband has been involved in pornography, or you've been involved in pornography, it's really rising with women. It's one of those things that you're going, oh, that's awful. Or maybe your husband has been unfaithful. Your husband has been unfaithful. And the first response to that, and it's a natural response, and it's a gut response, is, you've been unfaithful. You will never touch me again. Never. You wanted that? Go have it. That's a natural response that we have. But if you were unfaithful, the feeling is, why would he ever want me again? Why would he want me now? And I'm here to tell you, with time and patience and God, even your sexual relationship can help heal your marriage and bring it back together. And that's what we want, is a healthy relationship. My feeling is, Satan gets his foot in the door with pornography or even with adultery. Satan gets his foot in the door of your marriage. He's got it in there good. But mine is, no, get your foot out. You can't have my marriage. You can't have it. That's not going to happen. And so understanding that part of your sexual walk with your husband. I see the end of our life here, and I call it the sexy orthopedic shoe stage. I know. The words don't go together. They just don't. But I think of my parents. My parents live in Stillwater, Oklahoma. My parents are 86 and 87, getting ready to turn 87 and 88. Whoa. And I go stay with my parents quite often. Used to, until we moved to Oklahoma, I would go every week and every summer and stay a week with my parents. And I'd go stay, and my dad, like I described my dad, he's this gentle guy. Well, my dad would be sitting in the corner, and he'd have his Bible in his lap, and my mom is just this little 5-foot little voluptuous weirdo. I am a whole lot like my mama. But my mom can sing so beautifully. Just so beautifully. She really can. But she never sings normal at home. Never. So my mom would be back in a back bedroom, and my dad be sitting there with the newspaper, his Bible or whatever, and my mom would be back there, and you'd hear, like, Mom? Is she okay? And Dad's going, isn't she beautiful? He goes, she is so beautiful. And I'm like, hey. But I thought, here is my dad looking at my mom, and that's what he sees. Oh, and my dad now gets all emotional all the time about his love for my mama. They've been through a lot. They've been through some unfaithfulness. They've been through children that made horrible decisions. They've lived through grandchildren making horrible decisions. But they've done it together. They've done it together, and they've never quit. They've never quit. And I love the fact that when my dad looks at my mama, he sees Jesus. That's what he sees. And she's beautiful. He tells me almost every time I see them, she just radiates beauty. Just radiates beauty. I'm like, go talk to Wayne, Dad. Go talk to Wayne. But that's what we want. That's what we all want. We want our husbands, when they look at us, they don't see this thing. Remember, it's decaying. They want us to see, man, she's really working on renewing that inward beauty. She's really working on that. I see Jesus in her. She's so beautiful. That's what my prayer is for all of us. Me too. I want to quit listening to Satan. Satan is the one talking to me when I look in the mirror and go, oh, you're getting old. Oh, you got wrinkles under your eyes. Ah, your hair's gray. Ah, your shape is changing. And I have to remind myself, that's Satan. I am beautiful. I belong to the Lord, and I am beautiful. It's not a vanity thing. It's a vanity thing when I'm focused on the flaws. That's vanity. So make sure you remember the Lord loves you. He loves you. And he loves your husband. And he wants your marriage to succeed. That's what he wants for you. And that's what we're going to end this class with, prayer. That's what I want for all of us. I want marriages, and that's what the world is watching us. That's why it's so important that our marriages be different. The world doesn't know. They just don't know. And I'm not saying that in an ugly, mean way. It hurts me for them. They don't understand love. What genuine love looks like. They can't, because they don't know Jesus, and he is love. So that's why it's so important that we shine that light. We share. When we're out in public with our spouse, shine that light. Fight later if you need to, but shine that light. Let them see that love. Let them see that love. I'm going to end with a prayer, but I usually, we have some cards back there. I usually share my email address, and I can give it to you. Let me give you my email address. It's Tami Roberts, Tami Roberts, @hotmail.com. Sometimes it's easier to send an email to somebody that doesn't sit with you in worship every week, and just say, you don't even have to tell me specifically. You can just say, hey, could you pray for our marriage? On it. I am on it, because that's part of my ministry. I want your marriage to succeed. But if you do need somebody to share with, I'm probably not even going to know what your husband looks like. So I'm not going to get any kind of ugly picture in my mind of your husband. I'm going to pray for him. So if you need to share something, feel free to share it with me. I will not judge you. I promise you. That's not what I'm here for. I want to encourage you. I want to pull you closer to the Lord. So anytime. But I want to end this session with a prayer, and then the men will be up in just a second. Father, we thank you so much for this day and this time where we can come and we can talk as women about how you would have us to think, how you would have us to behave. Lord, we're just all on this journey together, and it's just a process. We're striving each day to be closer to you and each day to be more like Jesus. I pray that you help us be better wives, each of us. You know who we are and what we need individually. I pray you be with our husbands. Lift them up, Father. Pull on their hearts. Tug them closer to you. They have such a large responsibility, and I just pray that you continue to pull them close to you, Father. As wives, I pray that we lift them up and continue to do that and see the positive in them. Help us be women that don't always focus on the negative and the flaws in our husbands or even in ourselves, Father. Help us remember that we are created in your image, and help us focus on that and know that you see us as beautiful, Lord. We pray for all the families represented here. I pray that you strengthen them and keep them close. Father, we thank you especially for Jesus. He is the one that makes the difference in our lives. He is the reason we are here today. And I just pray that you help us remember to be those people that go out and shine that light and show Jesus and show that love that we have within our families and within our marriages and even within our church to those that don't know that. Help us be those people that shine that light, Father. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much, ladies. The guys will be up in just a minute, and we'll have one more session and be done. You're welcome.